how am I supposed to do that is, one of your best answers. We refer to that as a version of no. It's a great skill to use. It's a calibrated question, starts with the word how. And as particularly in a pandemic, because great negotiation is about great collaboration. And how am I supposed to do that? My son Brandon once said, it forces the other side to take a look at you. It's forced empathy. I mean, you use empathy because you want empathy in return. You want someone to demonstrate empathy with you.
Yeah.
And if someone's really coming on you hard, instead of just saying no or walking away from the table, which a lot of business people do, they get upset. There's a lot of name calling. Or just withdrawal. When you say to somebody, how am I supposed to do that? And you say it not in an accusatory way, but in a deferential way, because there's great power in deference. It makes them look at you and see you as a human being and see your situation and rethink what they're doing. It's not what their answer is. It's a thought process that you put them through. So that's really the purpose of great negotiation. Hostage negotiation was about, we got a terrorist, we're going to make him collaborate with us, whether he likes it or not. And business negotiation is about great collaboration. Even if the other side sees you as an adversary, the situation you were talking about, you needed to make them look at you in a different way. And that's
Right.
why you use that skill.
Right. And so the thing that you were talking about with respect to the pandemic, the little kind of extra tweak, would you share that?
Yeah, so we've evolved it up a little bit. In the old world, if you were pre-COVID, PC, everybody assumed that when the negotiation was over, their normal life was still continuing. So now in today's environment, nobody knows what is a new normal look like? What's it going to look like in 6 months? It's far more uncertain. So you can use a calibrated question, and now we refer to it as a thought shaping question. Instead of how am I supposed to do that? It's really, how do we work this out so that we both put ourselves in a position to thrive after this is all over? You're putting a different image in somebody's brain with the second half of that question. You're shaping their thoughts into a vision of how do we thrive when this is over? Because it will be over. This too shall pass has been a truism since mankind became civilized. This will pass. So let's put ourselves in a position to collaborate and thrive when this is over. And that's what we've really added into our negotiation approach to help shift people into a more positive mind frame, collaborative mind frame.
So I think that's really, really smart. And one of the biggest things, and I see it here in the chat, because I've tried to really be present in the chat, that a lot of us right now are negotiating with ourselves in taking action and overcoming the fear of not knowing what's going on, the fear that the uncertainty that we've got right now. How do you negotiate with yourself how do you negotiate with yourself to get past fear, procrastination, all of that stuff?
Yeah, well, the big thing, and I did that yesterday because I had a long drive on a road where I had intermittent cell coverage, which was a good thing because I told a friend of mine, I think it was a sign from God that I should be looking at the countryside as opposed to making phone calls. And but I caught a migraine just before I went, which shifts your mood. Mm-hmm. When I got home and stuff was bothering me, my house is kind of my home base. It makes me feel good to be here. As I'm approaching the door, the negotiation in my head shifted from this is happening to me to for me. And that's and it was an instant mind shift. This challenge, whatever I'm faced with, whatever's holding me back, whatever's frustrating me, is it's either happening to me or for me. Frustration, I hate frustration, or frustration's an education, frustration's an opportunity. there's a number of different ways to package gratitude into your head, or the reality of your circumstances. I mean, I've been in the third world. I've
Right.
been in places where people didn't have running water. I've been places where colleagues were murdered after I left the country because it was so dangerous.
Right.
I woke up within 10 feet of running water today. I managed to get out of bed and get a drink of water, and I didn't have to change clothes. I didn't have to walk through a village. I didn't have to bring the water back in an urn to my house. I mean, I got it pretty good as it is. And so sometimes just a recalibration, whatever works for you in your brain, because the universe is on our side. Our survival mode is wired so that we don't feel that way, but in point of fact, it is on our side.
So what happens when you're when you're overwhelmed? Like this is a good example. Right now, a lot of us are home. This is 21 things to do, but there's 20 billion, it seems like, because so many people have things going on. And you've got a challenge going on. Do you have a link for that yet? I think that Sandy or somebody shared it in here, but do you know what that is?
Well, our challenge is going to take place after the first of the year, because we decided that having survived COVID and thrived through the situation, we're now in appreciation celebration mode for the last 2 months of the year.
Good. There it is. It's blackswanltd.com/home. That's where it's going to be if it's not there already.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So, but I want to talk about Overwhelm, and I'm really curious as to how you apply the negotiating stuff that you've got, because I think a lot of us are saying to ourselves right now, I got 21 things plus all these other things. How am I supposed to do that? Right? How do you answer that for yourself?
Well, and I got to do that to myself sometimes too. I mean, so this is neuroscience. The identification of a negative emotion diffuses that emotion. It's the most effective way, not the denial of the negative emotion, but the identification of it. Mm-hmm. When I feel overwhelmed is any negative emotion is a version of fear. Mm-hmm. So I call it out to myself. If I'm concerned, if I'm anxious, if I'm frustrated, it's a version of fear. And I know that every time I call it out, it diminishes it. I'm my own laboratory. Mm-hmm. So if I'm scared, this is exactly what happens. I'll say to myself, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. I'm afraid. F it, I'm not afraid. Every time I call it out, it diminishes it.
Yeah.
It dials down the negativity in my brain. I don't deny it. The 2 millimeter shift is from the denial to simply calling it straight out.
That is huge. That really is because then you get it. You're not just overwhelmed. You're afraid. I love taking it back to that level. That's great.
And then bang. And then if I deactivate the negative, then my positive part of my brain will kick into gear every time.
I love it.